welcome to another episode of Part of the Narrative. It's me, your girl Mara, the marvelous, miraculous, the magnificent. See, I'm getting it. Practice makes perfect. Repetition, that's what you do. So, welcome to my channel. To those who are new, welcome back. To those who are awesome, my channel is crazy and chaotic because I am crazy and chaotic. I've gotten through my intro. I had to film this because the video that I'm editing right now is too goddamn long, okay? It's way too long. It was an hour and 20 minutes, and I'm like, nobody wants to sit here for that. So I decided to break the video up, thus this intro. Thanks for playing along. Y'all enjoy the video. Bye-sies.
Okay, who's your friend this week?
I got my same friends from last week.
Oh,
my
okay.
little Scream Squishy, and then the dark Layla.
They, based on their coloring alone, they're like a little couple. They look very cute. Oh, were they just making out?
Yeah.
Oh. Did they make a baby? What would their baby look
Wait,
like?
be this way.
What?
They're making a baby. You said make a baby.
Why can't they be face to face?
No, that's the way they like it. Don't you kink shame them. How dare you?
How do they do it?
Sometimes they do it like this.
Don't you
And then
kink
sometimes
shame
they get
them?
real creative and they go like this.
What's that position called?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is this like, what's it called? Like rub-a-dub-dub?
Rub-a-dub. I guess it'd be more like this. It's like a I don't know, 69, but like twisted. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what position that would be. I don't even know if it's, they have their own anatomy. They can do things that we can't.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that little
It's so
lesson.
funny.
Yeah.
You're such a weirdo. All right. Well, are you ready to hear about my new kind of terror?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm surprised by how
I
easy
know that
this
you've also said
was.
this, but it is so exciting to
This
me
is so
when we're
much
this
fun.
far into the show
Yeah.
to find something new
It
that
is.
I've never heard of, that was entirely different. Yeah, I think it's so fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, and usually when we find something new, it's not generally from a fan. It's usually something that you found, so I'm pretty excited.
Before you get into the scares, because I'm kind of in a weird mood, I just want to share what was in my head.
Okay.
And then I'll be done with it.
Okay.
I so badly, I know this wouldn't even be possible, but I wanted to throw this Layla at your forehead
Okay.
really hard.
Okay.
It wouldn't hurt you, 'cause it's soft.
Sure.
And then in my mind, I would be able, like a trick shot, I would be able to throw it, bounce it off your forehead, and then catch it right back into my hand and just go right back to it sitting here.
Do you want to try?
No, I don't want to try because I throw it too hard. No, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it.
Don't throw
No,
things
I'll
in
be
the
like-
studio.
It just works in my mind. Right? And then it bing, bounces off your head, and I grab it, and I'm back into story mode.
I like your sound effects.
Thanks.
Bing.
And then, I know. I feel like people are probably listening to their headphones being like, don't make that snap again. I know. When I did it, I'm like, oh, sorry.
Sorry. But then I thought about our cab driver, Angelo.
Oh, man.
Once upon a time, Dan and I, we should tell that story on
Yeah, we should tell on
the
that.
bonus
We
episode.
should.
It's a great story.
That maniac.
Psychopath. All right. Anyways, are you ready for some more?
I am.
All right. Let's dive right
Ooh,
in.
come on, Lindsay.
This email, this story submission is from so long ago, which I love, like still like digging into like back catalog.
Yeah.
So I just pick it random, and you'll know that immediately by the reference that they make to a previous episode.
Okay.
Hey Dan and Lindsay, loved your last episode, The Lemp Family Haunting.
Oh, yeah, ways back.
And
Oh,
particularly
St.
the retelling
Louis.
of the jinn story from Oman. As a Pakistani Muslim living in Canada,
Okay.
who is always interested in the supernatural lore of other cultures, I greatly appreciate your thoughtful and respectful presentation of jinn mythology. I
that's good.
especially appreciate your recognition that jinn in Islamic theology are not necessarily evil, as non-Muslims and even Muslims tend to overlook, but can choose to be malevolent to torment human beings.
Right.
The discussion around whether people see supernatural phenomena through their cultural or religious lenses reminded me of a family story members used to tell me in Pakistan, the legend of the Pitchuperi. Pitchuperi are meant to be female supernatural beings, somewhat similar
Okay.
to wraiths or vampires in Western culture.
Huh.
Often seen as beautiful women wandering lonely along back roads. These creatures generally look human, save for one characteristic: their feet are twisted backwards. The name Pitchuperi is derived from the term for backwards feet.
Okay.
When I was a child, my cousin spoke of a real Pitchuperi encounter my maternal grandfather experienced as a young man. As a young doctor, He would often drive outside of the city of Lahore in what is now Pakistan doing much needed medical work in a relatively poor, isolated area in the region. One night, he drove home in a very dark, very empty back road when a woman came out of the dark from the side of the road directly in front of him.
Hell no.
The woman looked young and attractive, but also pale and expressionless, with extremely dark eyes and unkempt hair, all visible in his car's headlights. Lone women did not typically spend any amount of time in the dead of night in this time and place unless something was very wrong.
Mixed up.
Being a naturally kind person, he put down his window to ask what was wrong and if she needed any help.
You don't
In
need
a
to talk
low,
to everybody.
clear voice, she said she was lost and needed to go back to the city center. Worried that someone may have committed some terrible deed against her, he agreed to take her in hope of trying to surmise what exactly had happened. Without hesitation, the young woman came around to enter his car, sitting down in the driver's side directly behind my grandfather.
Okay.
Oh, no.
As he drove back to the city, he tried to make small talk to ascertain where the woman was from, what her name was, and whether she had any family in the city. She said nothing to my grandfather, and he could see from his rearview mirror that the woman was completely still and would only stare directly at him through the mirror, knowing that he was looking at her.
No.
At first, he thought the young woman was traumatized, but as the minutes went on, he became increasingly uncomfortable for reasons he couldn't figure out. Something was simply not right about the situation. After moments of strange stillness, the woman started to move her arm to lock the car door on her side.
No.
Her movements were slow, odd, and strangely theatrical, almost as if she wanted my grandfather to know what she was doing, and almost, as he would remember later, as if she wanted him to know she was slowly trying to trap him inside the car. A bewildering sense of panic set fire to his heart. Rather than drive faster, the car slowed as his foot came off the accelerator, almost
Right.
as if he had no energy left to even press down on the pedal. He watched the woman even more closely,
Oh.
barely looking at the road.
I thought he was
The
doing that on
woman's face,
purpose.
previously passive and unmoving, broke out into a chilling grin as her other arm stretched out to the other car door. When I write stretched, I mean that quite literally. With her body otherwise unmoving, her arm elongated to more than twice its length as if made of elastic rather than flesh and bone, stretching in a way that was clearly inhuman. Closing his eyes, my grandfather slammed his foot on
God,
the
this
brake,
is a great
opened
episode.
the door, and ran out of the car. Refusing
Oh
to
my
look back,
gosh.
he ran as fast as he could, running into the sparse woods on the side of the road until he was exhausted.
Exactly.
It was only a few hours after, into the early morning, that he mustered enough courage to go back to his car. The woman wasn't there, of course, only his car in the middle of the road. The car's engine had been shut off, the keys still in the ignition, and strangely, all 4 doors were locked from the inside, as if the woman had pressed down all the locks and simply vanished. Terrified by the ordeal, my grandfather had to wait until a passerby could help him get back into the car by breaking the driver's side window for a lack of a better alternative. He told this story to his children decades after it happened, a story that trickled down to the next generation and eventually to me and my older cousins. As my grandfather recounted, his medical duties working late in the outskirts of town often left him exhausted. For years, he assumed that that night was the result of tiredness and stress, with his memories clouded by an unknown and purely irrational trauma. It was only after a psychiatrist colleague of his, years later, when hypnosis was introduced to medical practitioners in the country, that he performed the procedure on him to help him remember the story in its entirety. The narrative he recounted was exactly as I've described, with 2 additional details coming to the fore that my grandfather had blocked out.
Oh my
First,
God, I'm
the
gonna cry.
woman's eyes he saw staring at him through that ride were completely black, with even the whites clouded over as if by ink. Those black eyes held him briefly until the very end of the ride, in a sort of trance, powerful enough to make him ignore her second unworldly trait, that her bare feet were blemishless, pale as her face, and twisted completely backwards away, as if knocked back from the front of her body by a sledgehammer.
That's
Naturally,
creepy.
as I got
That's
older,
some creepy
I became
shit,
more
y'all.
skeptical of this story, thinking it was just one of those legends. Older
That's some
cousins tell younger
creepy
ones
shit,
to scare them.
y'all.
It was only until later that I
Great
realized
movie.
the story of the Pitchuperi was common in the Indian subcontinent, with legends coming up all over the region. Sometimes these stories are conflated with general stories of jinns haunting rural areas. The story even makes one think of similar tales in the West of female hitchhikers taking rides with men only to disappear without a trace, or even of black-eyed children trying to force their way into houses and cars.
Right.
Whether any of these stories are real or fabrication, it's interesting to me how the solitary
every
supernatural
culture.
female traveler with clouded black eyes seems to be a culturally universal tale, and your discussion about jinns and shadow people prompted me to share this story with you all. Loving
Wow.
your channel and your podcast, which I listen to faithfully every week before going to bed. Hoping to hear more
Yeah.
stories from you guys soon, particularly some international ones. All the best, Saad. Can't say it. Saad.
How's his name spelled?
Saad, S-A-A-D, pronounced Saw Ed. Saad.
Oh,
Like
okay,
you
yeah.
sawed a piece of wood.
Yeah. Very well structured story, man.
I thought so too.
Right.
And then just the way it was like, linking like shadow people and black-eyed children into the same Pitchuperi lore. I mean, I am, and I've said this in the past, I am always skeptical of hypnosis, just because I know that like memories can be implanted. That doesn't mean they always are. But what
else? Some creepy
got hung
shit?
up on for a second with this story is, the similarity between one of the stories I told about the stretching neck
Uh-huh.
and then the stretching
yeah.
arm.
Stretchy arm?
I just thought that was so weird because I cannot remember any story in the catalog where somebody, I mean, I'm sure there are, but it's definitely not been for a while, that somebody had an appendage stretch out like some entity.
Go Gadget.
Yeah, like Go Gadget, yeah. And, sorry, I'll explain why I'm laughing in a second. And just so weird to have that show up the same episode because we
Yeah.
don't talk about these stories beforehand.
Well, and like you were
That's
in
crazy.
Afghanistan, and now I took us to Pakistan.
Oh,
Like it's just
yeah.
like weirdly linked.
Some weird parallels.
Yeah, what are you laughing about?
I'm laughing because Kyler loves to show me weird memes.
Of course he does.
Uh-huh. And I was, both him and I were like cry laughing last night. Some of the ones he shows me, his sense of humor, like that age, I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, but this one,
Sometimes basically the things he shows us just aren't funny.
to us, yeah. I mean, to him and his friends, they laugh.
I don't know, do they?
It's at least funny to Kyler. But Kyler showed me this one. It was like some TikTok, Twitter compilation, like a slideshow. I didn't know that TikTok even did slideshows.
Uh-huh.
And so these tweets, and one of the tweet or what doesn't matter, but somebody goes, what would be your last words if someone was holding a gun to your head? And then the person's response was, it was a go bulletproof head. I know it's stupid, but I just picture like somebody holding a gun to your head. What are your last? You got any last words? Go bulletproof head. All of a sudden your head becomes bulletproof. It's silly.
Okay, it's pretty dumb.
Oh, it had to be there. Yes.
Okay, yeah, you were cry laughing over that.
Yeah, we got really into it.
Whew, all right.
We were in a mode of going through a lot of them though, and
Yeah.
that one got us.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Wow. You know,
Come on, go bulletproof head.
it's funny.
Yeah.
Not cry.
I butchered it.
I don't know if it's like cry laugh funny, but it's funny. I know. I liked also that Saad connected other folklore to other folklore. Like I do love that common connection of like, are there? Because I know we've discussed this. Are there really that many different things, or are there just slight variations on it that go from culture to culture, but it's all kind of the same human or
Yeah.
inhuman experience?
And I wondered that too. Like, are there these real entities out there, somehow in our world, or that pop in and out of our world, and then everyone is seeing these things around the world from the lens of their cultural perspective.
Yeah,
Right.
And that shifts it a little bit because reality's funny that way.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think
I
about
love
that
it,
where,
dude.
you know, it's a little soft on the edges, you know. You and I could have the same exact experiences, but how your brain processes what just happened and how mine processes it won't be exactly the same.
Correct.
And then, you know, when you take that, you know, more extreme, like across cultures and stuff, there could be some entity out there that always looks the same, you know, in a sense, like its reality is that it always looks like X, but person from culture Y seeing it is going to have it show up a little bit different than person from culture, you know, Z. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the, you know, just kind of to touch on what you were saying, like, you know, we're kind of all the same, all interconnected. It's like we all do experience the majority of the same things in life, death, tragedy. We all laugh, we all cry. So it's like we all feel these things. We all live a life.
Yeah.
And so theoretically we're all experiencing the afterlife, or what we think is the afterlife, or spirits from the afterlife. But how it's interpreted and then regurgitated is different.
Exactly. We're on the same matrix.
Oh no.